Good evening. I'd like to now call this meeting to order. The Village of Deerfield Board of Trustees meeting Monday, October 7th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Mayor Shapiro.
Here.
Trustee Benton.
Here.
Trustee Berg.
Here.
Trustee Goldstone.
Here.
Trustee Jacoby.
Here.
Trustee Metz-Childers is absent. Trustee Oppenheim.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Jerry, is Rebecca joining us by phone or no? No? Okay. All right. I would now ask us to all rise and ask Randall Burney. I just saw him. Where is he? Right there? Right there? So please, thank you. Lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Randall, I know you're going to be honoring Coach and teacher Tony Cambridge for an event on the 19th, but maybe you could just tell us a little bit about what you're doing and a little bit about Coach.
Well, good evening, Mayor Shapiro and members of the Board of Trustees. I really appreciate this opportunity to bring to your attention and to the community's attention this event, which is we're calling a recognition event, which will take place October 18th at Shepherd Middle School at 3:30. And this is a very interesting time because so many of us who have known a person who became known as Coach Cambick 60 years ago suddenly realized he's still with us. And he is an individual who is agile and active and as personable as he was when we knew him. We invite lovers of Deerfield history, as well as individuals who are interested in honoring teachers, to join with us. There's going to be a video presentation by a former classmate of mine, Scott Asher. He was a standout athlete at that time, and he has interviewed Tony as well as pulled together a variety of materials relating to his years here in Deerfield. Deerfield, my hometown, is full of wonderful stories, frankly, when you look around, and interesting people. And Tony is one of those people who provides perhaps one of the most interesting stories. He is woven into the baby boom generation that occurred here in the 60s. And Deerfield, was at a point where they were facing a fast rising number of individuals who were coming, both parents that were coming in with their children and individuals who were having children. In 1960, I was 10 years old, and I was already a veteran of Deerfield's growth. The population in 1950, when I was born, was 3,288. By 1960, it was 11,788. That is a growth of 258% in that period of years. I started my education at Kipling and then went to the brand new Walden School. And a few years later, I went to the then brand new Allen B. Shepherd School. And by George, at some point they opened Deerfield High School, and I went to a brand new high school. It was a most interesting time. Well, Mr. Cambick, of course, the physical education and health teacher, was at each school that I attended. And he also taught at Maplewood. So he was covering all of the schools. Well, the other interesting thing is that he worked weekends and evenings and through the summer at the Park District. So you couldn't turn around and not see him. I grew up on Rosemary Terrace, as did an individual who's with me, a lifelong neighbor of mine, Rob Holt, who's here with me and interested in these comments. And whenever my mother would say, "You've bounced around the house enough, get on your bicycle and go to Jewett Park," there was Tony Cambick, a fun and very entertaining individual who wanted you to excel. He started sports programs for both children and adults. Over time, he was appointed the supervising head of District 109 PE staff, he became the head PE teacher of the new Allen B. Shepherd Junior High School. So I interacted him with school, and then because I saw him so much, I learned that he was fulfilling during that same period as a reservist his military obligation. Over a 6-year period, he continued to provide all of us with his 100% activity, but when weekends and holidays came, he was someplace else. After District 109 and his commitment there was completed, he went on to become the recreation director at the Park District. So he had many of us for many years that we got to know him. His commitment over his life has always been to children. He and his wife founded the Montessori School at Trinity Church, which is my home church. And so we saw him yet again doing some of that. Today, Tony is agile, active, he's positive, he's a joy to talk to. I hope the community members will come and greet Tony and his family. By the way, his 3 children went to Walden and Allen B. Shepherd and DHS. So he has not only us from that era, but all the way through his own. In closing, I would like to just share with you my admiration for Deerfield today and the great public servants that you have. As this idea was developing, I called Justin Keenan, who's the assistant village manager, a person I have a high regard for, and I related that a group of my classmates wanted to recognize Tony. I asked who he might suggest that I contacted District 109. And he said, well, try John Filippi, the assistant superintendent. I did, and he was supportive. And he said he would like to bring on Eric Steckling as director of communications to facilitate it. I found Eric supportive. I asked him who I might contact at the Deerfield Park District. And he said, well, call Deanna Merzelin. And I did. And she said, well, you should talk to Laura McCartney. And I did. And she was supportive. And she provided a beautiful letter. I asked my childhood neighbors, Jan and John Zobus. Many of you know them, I'm sure. And she said, well, you should alert the chamber. And you should also contact West Deerfield Township. So I sent notices to them. I wanted to find some of the old Deerfield Review stories of Tony and the sports teams. I contacted the Deerfield Library. Ann Jameson and the assistant manager for adult services and her co-workers, Dylan and Caitlin, were outstanding in searching through the old archives. One article trumpeted that Tony had 57 young boys show up for one of those starting football seasons, and that he coached 2 championship teams. At that time, the superintendent of schools prohibited contact sports below freshman year in high school. As a result, all of the park districts got together, and they ran park district teams. I'm a life member of the Deerfield Historical Society. I called up Steve Anderson, and I asked who I could contact to get the word out. He says there's only one person who knows everything that's going on, and that's David Fitzgerald Sullivan. And as a result of that, I was so pleased to receive the invitation from you, Mayor Shapiro. Thank you all very much. Deerfield is still a small town like I grew up in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the kind words, the wonderful words about our village, about Tony. Your passion and your joy for this village is very clear, so we really appreciate it. Someone once said, you don't remember what you learned in first grade or second grade or whatever, but you remember your teacher. Yeah. And on October 18th, we're going to remember Tony, thanks to your help and your endeavors. We really appreciate it. Thank you. October 18th, at Shepherd Middle School at 3:30 will be his recognition, and we will say some nice things and honor all of his service over these past years. Next item on the agenda, I'd like to read a brief message, and then we can get on to some other business.
Mayor, proclamation.
Thank you, David. You're right. He does know everything. We're going to have a proclamation ready in honor of Tony on the 18th. We will be there with a proclamation, just so you know.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dave. Currently, the Jewish community here and across the world is celebrating the high holidays of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It is a time of feasting and fasting, prayer and inspiration. It is a time of reflection when many worship and pray for both forgiveness and for renewed hopes for a new Jewish year. This year, the Jewish holidays come at a very poignant time. They come during the first anniversary of the terrorist attack in Israel, where more than 1,200 people were killed and hundreds more were taken hostage, many of whom are still being held. Since that time, the war has ravaged in the Middle East. Tens of thousands have died or have been displaced. Despite occurring halfway across the world, residents in our village have friends or relatives who have been impacted by the war. Each day they anxiously await a glimmer of good news, hoping to be able to breathe comfort that there will soon be peace. There have also been ugly and inexcusable incidents of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, carelessly and dangerously cast without regard to their evil nature or their lasting consequences. Our community will always stand against hatred. It has no place here or anywhere. So now, at this difficult moment, I wish those who celebrate the Jewish holidays comfort and a happy and healthy New Year. Minutes of the previous meeting, September 16, 2024.
Move approval.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Treasurer's report, Eric.
Thank you. This is the August 2024 Treasurer's Report. Represents 2/3 of the year, and I just want to give a few highlights tonight. Net sales tax increased from last month in the same period of last year. That's due in large part to some non-recurring revenue that we received in the current year that doesn't necessarily happen every month at this time. Gross sales tax is lagging the budgeted amount as well as last year. That's due to economic incentive activity, which also results in lower expenditures in the finance department. Water and sewer billings are into the higher usage months, which is expected this time of year. And interest income continues to outperform the budget, but we do know that the Fed cut rates in September. So we'll see that fall off, but still strong year. Hotel tax reflects payments from 5 hotels. The 6th hotel paid shortly after month end, and by September, we're totally caught up with all the hotels there. And similarly, the electric utility tax was paid shortly after year end. So you see a 0 in this monthly report, but we got that money right after month end. We also had a good month in terms of building permit revenue. There was a large commercial build out, a large residential build out, and then the regular recurring activity that we typically have each month. Notable expenditures in August include construction and engineering costs. We bought some materials for water and hydrant maintenance. We did some improvements at 839 Todd Court, and we purchased 6 police vehicles. A large expenditure still to come before the year ends. It would be the village's contribution to the police pension fund. We have the second half of our debt service payments and also a budgeted transfer to the refuse fund. So happy to answer any questions there may be, but those are the highlights of tonight's report.
Does anyone have any questions for Eric? Thank you.
Thank you.
Bills and payroll. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Questions? Roll call.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Yes.
Trustee Benton?
Yes.
Trustee Berg?
Yes.
Trustee Goldstone?
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Now is the opportunity for public comment, where we give an opportunity for those who wish to take 3 minutes to offer any comments on a non-agenda item. Is there anyone here? I don't see anyone that was signed up, but is there anyone here who would like to talk about a non-agenda item? All right, let's move on. Reports, item 2456-1A, a report and recommendation of the Plan Commission on the request for a finding of substantial conformance and approval of a final development plan for the Walgreens Plan Unit Development at 100, 102, 104, 106, 108, 200 Wilmont Road, and a final plat of subdivision for the Walgreens PUD. And this is the Plan Commission's recommendation to us of a finding of substantial conformance. That's what we're being asked to look at tonight. So, Kent.
As you noted, Your Honor, the Walgreens is requesting a finding of substantial conformance and approval of the final development plan for the Walgreens Planned Unit Development PUD at 100, 102, 104, 106, 108, and 200 Wilmot Road, and also seeking approval of final plat of subdivision of the Walgreens properties on Wilmot Road. Pulte is requesting a finding of substantial conformance and approval of a final development plan for a residential planned unit development PUD at 300, 302, and 304 Wilmot Road, and the Walgreens Daycare Building at 202 Wilmot Road for the Pulte Home Company, LLC, and approval of a final plat of subdivision for a residential planned unit development. The Plan Commission held a workshop meeting on August 22nd, 2024, and is recommending approval of the petitioner's requests. We know we have Plan Commission Chairman Al Bromberg is with us tonight if there are questions for the Plan Commission.
So this request is with respect to the Walgreens PUD, the next one?
There's
that
two.
Kent
There's
just
two.
mentioned
There's kind of two
will be
items,
Pulte's,
right?
yes.
Because
So this is,
you're reconfiguring the Walgreens parcel from what it was to what it will be.
Yes.
And then also the final development plan for the Pulte project.
so with respect to the request of a finding substantial conformance and final plat on the Walgreens piece of this, did you want to say anything?
I don't need to, Mr. Mayor. I'm
Okay.
happy to if you'd like us to.
Does anyone have any questions? Does staff or the board have any questions for Attorney Katrina McGuire on the Walgreens piece of this?
Again, kind of breaking off the northern chunk and making the new parcel the two southern parcels-ish.
Are there any public comments on the Walgreens piece of this, a finding of substantial conformance, or, I'm sorry, and final plat of subdivision? Public comment.
You have one over here.
Mr. Lyons.
I'm John Lyons. I live at 310 Forsythia Drive. And as I see it, appearing here is certainly unpleasant for at least two reasons. Every time we are in our yard or looking out the window, my wife and I are devastated at the thought that you probably will approve the destruction of the environment that my family and neighbors have enjoyed for decades. It has been extremely disappointing to appear before a Deerfield mayor and trustee board, just as I did years ago as I led the campaign for numerous environmental improvements in Deerfield. For example, I led the process to get a sound wall along the tollway, and later I led a process to get the halting of construction of an elevated ramp above the sound wall. This time, by contrast, I have been greeted with stone silence as pertains to my and my neighbors' questions. We have no answers as to whether an alternate layout of the planned development and or the elimination of a house or two was discussed. We can only be left to conclude that the Planning Commission, as well as the mayor and trustees, have the interest of Pulte above that of us residents. That despite the fact that the result of the decision will destroy the natural growth and beauty of that area forever. Pulte has offered to plant a barrier at our lot lines, suggesting that it is an appropriate substitute for demolishing 40 or more trees growing on an elevated berm. As I have said before, I am 100% convinced that if one of you decision makers or one of Pulte's decision makers lived where I am, there would be no choice but to turn the request down to eliminate the berm and the trees. One other comment regarding the fable that has been tossed out at us, indicating that our property values will increase as a result of what is proposed. You have only to consider that if a potential buyer looked at a house and was told that rather than having the lovely berm and trees that exist, they would have a house and a development of houses as their environment, what would be their obvious choice? And finally, the environment statements of both the village and of Pulte are apparently meaningless statements for show. Deerfield's Sustainable Commission statement reads, "The Sustainability Commission vision is that Deerfield optimizes its potential in environmentally sound practices thereby improving the quality of our local environment for the benefit of our citizens, businesses, and neighbors. A portion of Pulte's environmental statement reads, Pulte's Group Management and Board of Directors understands and fully appreciates the significance of our unwavering commitment to protect our environment for current and future generations. The actions of both Pulte and the village of Deerfield diminish these boilerplate claims to the point of irrelevancy. In my 50 years in the security business, I've learned one thing, and that is to be objective. I have tried to be objective in assessing the process here and coming up with these conclusions. So I almost apologize if I'm insulting anybody, but I'm trying to be objective about where we stand. Thank you.
Mr. Lyons, there's no reason for you to be apologetic.
Pardon me?
There's no reason for you to be apologetic.
Yeah, I'm really not.
I understand. And even if you think, or someone were to think that you were, there's no reason for that. We've been very respectful, and we respect your comments. You may not agree with us. You may not think we take you seriously, but we do. We take this job seriously. We take you seriously. We take the process seriously. And we appreciate you being here tonight.
Okay. One quick question. Why hasn't anyone answered the questions we've had about whether a different plan layout could take place or fewer homes?
So,
we have never got those answers.
So this is not the time to have this
Right.
engagement.
Understood.
But I will remind you, I'm sure you know, I don't need to remind you, but there was a full public hearing about this process several months ago.
We
But this is
attended.
not the forum to do that at this point.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments from the public on this matter?
We've had a video.
So,
We saw the video.
was this the picture that you want us to have?
Okay.
Yes. We all have it. Yep. We did receive this picture, and I think some time ago you sent us some other pictures
There was
and a video.
with
Yes,
a letter.
and we
The
did get the
video.
video. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a motion on the report and recommendation of the Plan Commission for the Walgreens PUD at 100, 102, 104, 106, 108, 200 Wilmont, and the final plat of subdivision for the Walgreens PUD?
Move to approve the report.
Second. And it's to direct the village attorney to prepare an ordinance.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Benton?
Yes.
Trustee Berg?
Yes.
Trustee Goldstone?
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby?
Yes.
And Trustee Oppenheim?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Item 2456-1B, which Kent alluded to a moment ago, this is a report and recommendation of the Plan Commission on the request of a finding of substantial conformance and approval of a final development plan for a residential planned unit development at 300, 302, 304 Wilmont Road and the Walgreens Daycare Building at 202 Wilmont Road for Pulte, and a final plat of subdivision for the residential planned unit development.
I have nothing to add from what I said before. You guys have kind of covered this over a couple of different meetings, but I think the petitioner is here tonight.
Yeah, I
Might wanna
see
provide
Attorney
some-
Andrew Scott. Andrew, do you want to say anything or present anything?
We're happy to. For the record, Andrew Scott with the Law Office of Dykema Gossett with me this evening, as well as Rob Getz with Pulte Home Company. We're available to answer any questions. We have a short presentation just to refresh everyone's recollection about the scope of the project, and I'm happy to go through that if you'd like. And I can also
Please
talk
do.
a little bit. Okay.
Yep.
So again, just to refresh everyone's recollection, Pulte Home Company, they are the contract purchaser of the roughly 18 acres, northern acres of the Walgreens campus, and the proposal is to subdivide the subject property into 42 residential units, single family homes. There will be 3 affordable units as part of that project. And I wanted to show just very briefly, so we can focus in on the intersection with the cul-de-sac at existing Forsythia. We've made a number of improvements, particularly along there. We've added additional landscaping, additional trees to provide for additional buffering and screening for the neighbors in the northwest corner of the property. Just as a general matter, a lot of the changes have been landscaping. There have been some changes along the southern property line. We changed out 10 shade trees with some ornamental trees. It was just to be able to deal with conflicts with overhead wires, things of that nature. Did a little bit of work on the parkway trees, again, just to align it with the existing right-of-way. And I'm just going to jump really quickly because I think the board knows that we did meet, or we attempted to meet with our neighbors at 310 and 315 Forsythia back in May. We were told that there wasn't much interest in engagement, and the purpose of that meeting was to see if there was something that could be done on their property to sort of enhance any kind of landscaping, anything that could be done there. At that time, we were told there wasn't much interest in talking. We did attempt to re-engage with them, and in fact, our landscape architect went back up on July 8th of this year, met with the neighbors at 310 and 315, and basically said, what can we do for your property in terms of landscaping to try to improve, take care of the concerns that you might have. And so what we have done is, first, with respect to 315, the Merrills, we've actually added 17 arborvitae on the southern edge of their property. It started out, I believe, as 12 or 13. They asked for 4 more. We said, absolutely 4 more. There was a desire for fencing. We had some back and forth about the fencing, and just to ensure uniformity in terms of the fencing that got installed on their property, we ultimately said, you go ahead, pick whatever fence you want, and we'll reimburse you up to $4,000. And that seemed to satisfy the neighbors at 315. We had also met with, the landscape architect met with Mr. Lyons, and again talked through what type of landscaping they would like to see. And there was the conclusion that the 2 pear trees that you can see on the subject property, that was his desire, in addition to the additional landscaping that is going to occur at the common area that leads up into Forsythia. And so that is kind of where we are just in terms of landscape enhancements. Again, hopefully the board understands that Pulte kind of went above and beyond and sort of reapproached the neighbors, really trying to make the conditions as best as possible. And this is where we landed. And so we're here this evening asking for final approval of the PUD plat and our preliminary and our landscape plans and plat of subdivision and engineering plans. We believe it meets the standard of substantial conformity. We've only made the conditions better. I guess I did forget to mention, you may recall that we had a 15-foot sound wall at the southwest corner of the property. That was the difference between when we were here earlier this year and what's before you tonight is we added 5 feet to the height to provide for better sound barrier and a little bit better alignment with existing conditions with the tollway sound wall that's there today. So that's kind of really the sum total. I kind of characterize it as everything is, there's been more trees added, more landscaping, hopefully better, sound deadening. Things have only gotten better in terms of the plan from what you saw earlier this year. And
Thank you.
Again, we're able to answer any questions.
Thank you for that update. I was going to mention the sound wall, but you got it. So thank you for that. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Scott? All right, public comment. I see Tracy and Tarek is here. Do we have a microphone so she doesn't have to come here, a microphone that we can give her? So looks like there's a bad left leg injury there. So let's see if we can bring the mic to you. I assume you want to comment? I didn't want to be presumptuous?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm Tracy Merrill. I reside at 315 Forsythia Drive in Deerfield. Good evening to the Board of Trustees. I have expressed at every meeting my opinion on this matter, and I implore each of you to deeply reflect on the impact of your decision tonight and not to rush to a decision. Can you genuinely say with integrity that these final plans honor your fellow residents, especially those of us whose lives are being directly affected by this project? We're not just asking you to reject one particular aspect of this project, we're asking you to show us and the rest of Deerfield that you do care. Show us that you carefully consider every project that comes across your desk and that you prioritize the best interests of current citizens, not just developers. Demonstrate that you're willing to protect our trees, land, and wildlife rather than approve a plan that clearly violates the city's own tree preservation ordinance. If we can't count on our local government to follow its own rules, who will? Every decision you make tonight will leave a lasting mark. We, the residents who have voiced our objections from the beginning, have endured sorrow, grief, frustration, and a deep sense of hopelessness. We've shed tears. We've faced difficult decisions about whether we can even continue to live here, and we've tried every avenue to protect the land that we cherish. The younger generations will look at this decision and ask, why did our local government choose big developers over the well-being of its people and environment? Why hasn't anyone answered our central question? Why can't Pulte adjust its site plan? By reducing the number of lots, they could maintain the berm, preserve the trees, and protect the natural environment. Is profit truly more important than the integrity of our community? Our objections have come from a genuine desire to see our neighborhood thrive, not just financially, but socially and environmentally. Over these last few months, we've raised concerns after concerns and attended meetings, sent emails, and even offered solutions. Yet our voices seem to fall on deaf ears. We've provided an engineering report, and I do ask, why can't they just spare one tree on the parkway even? On the parkway in front of my home, they want to remove a tree that is over 50 years old, over 50 feet in height, and they still want to remove that for what, utility line access? Can the city just save one tree in front of my home? Moreover, I've also provided an appraisal report that indicates this project will decrease my property's value as well as that of my neighbors. This is not just theoretical, this directly affects our financial stability, our property taxes, and our ability to sell our home. It's disheartening to see a pattern of resident voices being overlooked in favor of profit-driven decisions. We moved to this community because we believed in its potential and its values. But with each meeting, I find myself questioning whether we're truly part of a community that values its people or merely a location for developers to exploit. Thank you for your time. I hope you will consider your decision carefully.
Thank you, Tracy, and we wish you a speedy recovery on that left leg. You did ask a question about one tree, and Tyler Dickinson, we normally don't do this, but I want to just address that issue real quick. Tyler, if you could.
Yeah, so in particular, that tree south of your driveway, that was proposed to be removed for a sanitary connection. We've been talking with the developer on two different fronts. So there is a stub coming almost all the way to the south of Forsythia, thereby eliminating any type of access to that tree. And further, if the elevations don't work for some reason, they can bore underneath that tree. So that tree is something that we are looking to save.
So the tree's going to be saved?
Yes.
Okay.
Trustee comments? Yeah, I will. Thank you, Tracy. Any other public comments? Okay. Again, this is coming to us on a report and recommendation of substantial conformance from the preliminary to the final plan, final development plan by Pulte, as well as its plat of subdivision. If there are no other trustee comments or questions, I will ask for a vote. A motion on the vote. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the report and direct the village attorney to prepare an ordinance.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Trustee Berg?
Yes.
Trustee Goldstone?
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby?
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Yes.
Trustee Benton?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to item 24-100, consideration and action of the Plan Commission recommendation on the request for a sign plan amendment for new wall signs, including a sign exception at 570 Lake Hook Road.
Plan Commission held a public hearing on September 12, 2024, and is recommending approval to amend the signage plan to allow 2 tenant wall signs on the south and west wall of the 570 Lake Hook Road building. The new signs would replace the existing 570 wall sign in the same location on the south and west walls of the office building. The west wall sign, Coast to Coast Logistics, is 82 square feet, requiring for an exception to exceed 1% of the total area of the west wall. The Plan Commission's recommendation was unanimous.
I see 2 people who might want to stand up and give a presentation or a word.
I'm here to answer any questions. Kent did a great
Would you
job
mind
at
just
explaining the
introducing
project.
yourself?
Lisa Stazak. I'm with Parvin Klaus Sign Company.
Thank you, Lisa. Does anyone have any questions for Lisa on this request?
Makes total sense. It's a tough spot.
It really is.
And I think, as the mayor knows, this building is approaching 95, maybe 97% leased, so it's a very successful building, and we're super happy about that.
Yeah. They've done a great job leasing it up. Thank you for your application and everything that you did to get it to this point. Do we have any comments, questions, public comment, or trustee comments? I'll seek a motion.
Come on, guys.
Do we have a motion to accept the report and direct the village attorney to prepare an ordinance?
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Goldstone?
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby?
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Yes.
Trustee Benton?
Yes.
Trustee Berg?
Yes.
Motion passes.
It's the best argument you never had to make.
I know, right? Thank you so much.
Nothing on our consent agenda, nothing on old business. New business, item 2499, a resolution approving Phase 3 engineering services contract for Hazel Avenue infrastructure. Tyler.
Good evening, Board. Over the last 4 years, Deerfield has prepared design documents and specifications for the upcoming Hazel Avenue infrastructure project. This project will go from Wilmot Road to Waukegan Road, include full water main replacement, full roadway reconstruction, sidewalk improvements, ADA improvements, storm sewer improvements, just a facelift from point to point. Village prepared all documents in accordance with federal guidelines, making the project eligible for outside funding or STP funding, which was secured in the fall of 2023 in the amount of $4.77 million. This project will be let through IDOT and will allow for construction to begin in early 2025. Interviews were held this spring following our qualifications-based selection process for engineering firms. As a result, Civil Tech Engineering was selected by the village as the firm best suited to handle this project. They have performed similar construction management services in the past, most recently the 2023 water main project along Waukegan Road, as well as the 2017 Briar Hill Road project. Can you remember that? Briar Hill was not a fun one. The proposal from Civil Tech in the amount of $1,246,823 has been approved in form by IDOT and the Lake County Council of Mayors. The amount now must be brought to the village board for approval prior to execution with IDOT. Since construction engineering services for the project is considered a participating cost, the village will receive $592,000 as a reimbursement for this overall cost.
So basically half.
Basically half.
Okay.
Yep. The department has budgeted $1,052,000 in next year and another $200,000 in fiscal 26 for this service. The Public Works and Engineering Department recommends that the village board authorize the resolution to approve an agreement with Civil Tech Engineering for Phase 3 engineering services for the Hazel Avenue infrastructure project in the amount not to exceed $1,246,823. So this is a reimbursed cost, so we will upfront the cost and then we'll invoice IDOT periodically up to $592,000.
Wow.
Any questions?
Does anyone have any questions for Tyler?
And I just remind the board, we rotate these. We have 2 or 3 really solid engineering contractors that we rotate projects through, so we don't just stick with one. We get them to compete for that, and this is one of those examples of that. Civil Tech's done good work for us before, and has a great reputation in that engineering community.
It's a big job.
It is.
How long are we talking?
That's what I was just going to ask.
Hopefully, so the bid opening is early November through Springfield and IDOT. Hopefully we can have a winter like we did last winter and start in February. If that's the case, I mean, we're looking all of next year.
All of next
We'll
year.
use all of next year, yeah.
$11
So-
million project?
It's probably 8.5, maybe 9.
Okay.
Plus this is closer to 10.
And they move, basically, they'll probably start west and move east.
It depends on the
You don't know?
contractor's need. If they want to throw two crews at it to start, kind of meet in the middle approach, that would be advantageous to the village.
And a larger area will be disrupted at a time then.
We have to manage traffic.
Yeah.
So the contractor can throw 10, they just need to show us that they can manage traffic. So there will be detours, especially between Waukegan Road and Chestnut over the railroad tracks. That will be a detour. That'll be a posted detour, just with the railroad tracks and the inability to, the narrowness of that road, inability to move traffic through while we're working. That is a posted detour planned and approved by IDOT.
Customer, we're going to have a blog about the project. We'll have a resident meeting in November. When we open bids, and assuming we award bids, we'll have a resident meeting. We're going to have that recorded and those kind of things going on. So the communication piece is going to be regular. But yeah, you got several hundred residents directly affected and several hundred more tangentially affected. But remember, we also done Deerfield Road. We've done Greenwood Avenue in this area. We know how to do this.
Right.
But it's
And Lake Cook, we started doing that format
that's exactly
with the
right.
meetings, and we've kind of gotten it down to a science. I feel like people are really responding to it, but we've got to coordinate with Metra, and all the commuters are in that same area as well.
And it's still going to be a problem for them, right?
Yeah.
We understand that. But on the other hand, we're getting
We're getting good at this.
I was going to
$5+
say, as a
million
reminder,
dollars from the federal government.
we're
to do
getting
this.
half of it pretty much as a grant from the feds.
Yep.
Yeah.
And understand, water main is not a participating item. So that is off the top, that is the
Right, the water
villages.
mains
So
are our own, right.
of the participating items, we're getting a large chunk of it.
And do we have any lead services that we're
We
going to
do.
be fixing as part of this?
There will be lead service lines that we encounter, and we will fix those.
So whatever that, again, that's modus operandi. If we run into them in a project that we're doing, we're going to replace them and fix them. And make
It's
them
all
proper.
part of our philosophy, and Public Works philosophy is maintain our infrastructure, get ahead of it,
Right.
so it doesn't become a bigger problem, more expensive problem when
Right.
we don't. And we know it's going to be an inconvenience, but it's a major project. We'll get it done.
It's a large communication aspect of this.
Yep.
And we've got it dialed in pretty well.
How is traffic handled? Is it through the police or through the
Through us.
contractor?
Through the contractor. So as traffic control, that would be mainly through contractor, through approvals of the village. So we wouldn't just let them shut down any road at any time. There's restrictions. Metro being a large part of that, making sure that we have access to Metro Station, parking. It'll be a large.
I also worry
Large
about
end.
the high school students that use that as a cut through, and I know you said they did it for
Greenwood,
Greenwood,
right.
but a lot of kids from where I live take Wilmot and cut over rather than go through town, and I think that at least at the beginning of the project, when school's in for those kids driving, I would be a little concerned.
Yeah, so Kent brought up Greenwood. We did that in 2019. It had firm start end dates for that closure of Greenwood Avenue to coincide with the high school. So we've worked on them before. We worked around them last year with the project as well on the water main. So we've been accustomed to kind of.
And as part
High
of
school, a lot of people.
communication, we can reach out to the high school as well
Yeah.
and say, tell your students that commute.
Well, and details and David's and weekly,
Right.
or monthly communications, details.
So it's to the homeowners, it's to the businesses, it's to the high school,
range
which I'm
of
sure
folks,
you
right.
guys already know and you've already thought about, but it's going to be upon us soon.
Yep.
And the communication is going to be very, very important. David, did you need? Oh,
big.
I thought he was. Okay.
Yeah, heavy communication aspect.
Yes. Thank you. Any questions, Bob? Do you have anything?
Nope.
No. The high school students. No.
Not reading that, so
No. But we can just do what we can do, right? We do the best we can do. Maybe their parents do. I don't know.
Message,
we-
message boards, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, we worked directly with the high school this year with the IDOT project, even though it wasn't
Exactly.
ours. We worked with them. We worked with them last year as well with the
Okay.
water main project. So
Right,
we've got a
right,
good
right.
rapport with them.
great.
Establish that communication.
We're getting good at this. We have to keep
Practice
doing it.
makes perfect.
Yeah,
Oh,
$5
almost
you get good at stuff.
You bet.
Quickly. Do I have a motion on the resolution?
Move approval.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Jacoby.
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim.
Yes.
Trustee Benton.
Yes.
Trustee Berg.
Yes.
Trustee Goldstone.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Resolution awarding the purchase of a backup data storage, purchase of backup stat.
Slow down.
Let's try this again.
Backup data
Item
storage.
24101, a resolution awarding purchase of backup data storage equipment.
Good evening.
Matt.
Data and system backups are critical tools used by the village to help protect against losses, both operational and from a cybersecurity perspective. We have two pieces of data storage equipment used to store these backups that have reached an end-of-life status from their manufacturer. To reduce the risks that start accumulating over time once devices do reach this status, it's our standard operating procedure to replace them. The new proposed equipment would also provide necessary performance and capacity improvements, as well as enable the use of important new backup-related security capabilities that are expected to positively impact our ability to maintain or keep favorable rates for our cybersecurity insurance. This is a planned purchase and within IT's total VERF budget for 2024. Pricing negotiated with the equipment manufacturers through our reseller Continental Resources being the lowest received formal quote. Industry practices negate the use of formal bidding procedures for these types of purchases, as manufacturers have a practice of protecting customers' existing channel partners or the partner that is the first to request pricing by offering them the best pricing. The price for this project is $59,246.48, with waiver of competitive bidding respectfully requested.
Questions for Matt?
That's a huge range.
Between the two that we did get
Yeah.
returned, yes.
They
That's
want our business.
that highlights the condition that I spoke of the
Yeah.
manufacturers having a tendency very strongly to offer superior pricing to existing channel partners or the first company that a customer talks to about purchasing from them.
That's a good deal for us.
Certainly.
Any other comments, public comments or otherwise? Do I have a motion approving the resolution?
So moved.
Second? Roll call.
Trustee Oppenheim.
Yes.
Trustee Benton.
Yes.
Trustee Berg.
Yes.
Trustee Goldstone.
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Before we move on, just a quick question for Matt. When we got the notice, I think from David, to update our tablets, and I was one that did. It was a little difficult because I wasn't quite sure how to do it. You guys walked me through it. Everybody else complete with that?
I would have to check on the status from our device management platform, but you have Apple tablets. Apple pushes out updates so frequently, there kind of always is one.
I don't remember us being asked to do it separately, and that's why I was concerned, because I wasn't able to do it at first.
If it's a larger version jump, we might with more proactive requests to get those updated.
Thank you.
Yes, I know many of you have not done that update.
Oh, I did it.
So if you haven't, please do so. And if you're having issues, bring your device to the next committee of the whole meeting, and Melissa will be there to help you.
You're also welcome to leave them after the
through it.
meeting tonight with me, and we'll get them updated and ready to return to you.
It's an update. I don't mind.
Oh, that's all it is?
Yeah. It's just an update. I was out of town.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Item 24102, a resolution to retain a contractor to demolish 755 Kipling.
And Your Honor, this resolution is at your place tonight in paper. We didn't distribute it ahead of time, but we had it on the agenda. But Ben and his team were finalizing the resolution, so it's presented for you tonight.
Yep. So as you are aware, we have been in litigation with the owner of 755 Kipling for unsafe property, seeking the demolition of the house and removal of the swimming pool that is on the property. We were hopeful that we had reached an agreement. A consent decree was entered by the court, which required the owner to obtain, the first step was obtain a demolition permit by October 1st, and then demolish the house and remove the pool by December 1st. while the owner of the property at 755 Kipling signed the consent decree, a week later did not meet the first deadline of applying for a demolition permit and has been unresponsive now to multiple outreaches. And so what we are asking for you this evening is approval of the resolution, waiving bidding, and entering into a contract so that the village can engage in the demolition. Under the consent decree, if the owner fails to fulfill its obligations, which it has failed to do, we have the right to enter upon the property and demolish the structures and return the property to a safe condition in conformance with our code.
Without their objection.
Without their objection. The lender, based on my conversations today, the lender is also seeking potentially to have a receiver appointed over the property, and they may still try to engage in the demolition if the court approves that. But nonetheless, we're asking for this resolution to be approved so that way we can move ahead in the planning and get this done quickly, one way or the other, finally, to bring this property into conformance.
Whether it's by a receiver appointed
or us, yeah,
or by the lender, by the court on behalf of the lender or us. I think we have looked at this and we want to move forward as quickly as we can.
But by passing this resolution and engaging, retaining a contractor, we're not setting a date for the action to take place. We're just having them ready.
Correct.
Right. So the contract provides, and even if we execute the contract, it provides that we're not obligated until we give the go-ahead to the contractor, and we have the right to terminate. So if the receiver is appointed this week and they get the house down, we don't have to move ahead, but we want to be prepared, and we also want to be able to do it ourselves as quickly as possible,
right,
so that way this is taken care of once and for all.
Absolutely.
And staff is completely supportive of the resolution to abate the nuisance that's existing today, because it's a nuisance today.
Does anyone have any questions for Ben? Public?
How do we get reimbursed?
So under it's a couple ways. So under the unsafe property statute, which allows us to go to court and pursue this, also allows us to file a lien for our costs, which we will do, but it also gives priority to our lien. So we are superior to lenders, and so we would pursue and perfect the lien, and then if needed, foreclose on the property and hopefully get our cut of money before the lenders, and that's how we would do it. The other thing that we did and preserved in the consent decree was our right to also fine the owner for violations. And the property has continually, and each and every day, been in violation, and the owner agreed that he cannot contest those fines. So the point of the fines is not to really reimburse, but if we are able to collect anything, certainly goes to the village general fund.
Okay.
And if there's a receiver?
And if there's a receiver, we don't have the expense of the demolition. So we can still seek the fines and penalties and costs of the litigation, but obviously the receiver would be the one then paying for the demolition if they do it.
I just want to thank Ben and the community development team for keeping us on point on this, because the problem property is still the problem property. It needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed as soon as we can do it in a responsible and legal way, and that's what we're proposing tonight.
Thank you.
I would move to accept the resolution.
Second.
Further discussion? Roll call.
Yes.
Trustee Berg?
Yes.
Trustee Goldstone?
Yes.
Trustee Jacoby?
Yes.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Items for discussion by the mayor and board of trustees. I got a bunch of stuff.
Okay.
First of all, September 21st was our Harvest Fest. It was a huge success. Thanks so much to staff, Jessica, David, Justin, Public Works, and everyone who made that a success. And we had a car show. 80 cars, was it about? I can't remember who to look to. I know, Jessica, you were instrumental in getting those cars to show up. Thank you for your efforts in doing that, and that was great. So congratulations and thank you to staff. Last Saturday was a beautiful, crisp morning, and it was also the final farmers market. Another great season. Farmers market just gets better and better every year, and thanks to all those who put that together. Saturday and Sunday, Deerfield High School hosted a junior assembly of the Model UN in this room and in the next room. And I got to tell you, those kids, there were some high schoolers here who hosted and ran it for the middle schoolers. Middle schoolers, not just from Deerfield, but from all over. Any middle schoolers from around who wanted to participate through the school did a Model UN over the weekend. And it was tremendous. I'm sitting here with these kids in high school, and I'm so humbled because they're like brilliant. They were unbelievable. And they did a terrific job. And I know their teachers and their parents, et cetera, were so proud of them. A great program. I think it was the inaugural year for them to do this. So hopefully they'll do it again. And we were happy to open up the room and the other room for them for that great event. As a reminder, we have our Committee of a Whole meeting on October 16th from 3 to 6. Another thing that I don't think we mentioned before, but it just occurred to me, some time ago, Bob, and maybe Tyler too, I can't remember, we talked to Commissioner Scott Britton about Wilmot and Lake Cook. And thanks to your efforts, there will be some repaving and some improvement along Lake Cook. And Commissioner Britton made it happen, but we got it to his attention at that intersection. I think it's starting this fall.
Potentially. We have a pre-con.
Okay, so potentially it's going to start this fall, but thank you for bringing it to our attention, to bring to Cook County Commissioner's attention for that improvement project. That's all I got.
I have something.
Yeah, Mayor.
If it's,
yeah, of course.
I wanted to bring this up to the board. I have seen numerous accounts, as I'm sure most of you also have, and have had this brought up to me by other residents. The issue of young people on electric bikes and scooters going through traffic and on the streets and sidewalks. We discussed this even at our last greenhouse gas meeting. And as I understand it, Highland Park has outlawed the use of these kind of vehicles in their public parks. And the city of Lake Forest has outlawed them altogether in the downtown.
Just in the downtown.
But many, many people are curious about what are the rules, what is the training that young people have to go through, is there a licensing, what are the penalties for disabusing, the right to ride on the street. And it's dangerous, and more people are finding it frightening. So I'm wondering if we can convene, I know we have no police presence here at this moment, but if we could get some kind of a report, some kind of information from our police department and whoever else has meaningful input into this. I do believe it's an issue, and it's something we are going to have to deal with.
I've been seeing a lot of posts on Facebook about it, a lot.
It is a
Bill
thing.
Moms.
It is a thing, and it's becoming more prevalent. Kent and Andrew and I can't remember, we talked to the chief about this.
Yeah.
And we are actively looking at other communities and going to work with Ben, because you could say, don't do this, but then what are the consequences?
Exactly.
Right. Is it a $25 fine? Is it, do you need a permit? Who pays it? Does the parents pay? And so it is.
And what are the rules in terms of training? I mean, a kid gets a bike.
Yes. So I'm not sure that there's any formal training that's required for these vehicles. What I've learned in just a short period of time, there's a little bit of some of these vehicles are covered under the motor vehicle, but mostly they're not.
I know.
Right? Mostly they're governed by local ordinance. Mm-hmm. And we are looking at this and studying it, and either Mary, per your request, will have the chief give us a brief report next time, but it is something we're looking at to implement an ordinance or whatever we need, some sort of controlling ordinance for those vehicles.
And it would be,
want to also expand it to e-bikes.
Yes.
Because a lot of those bikes are
Agreed.
driven not just by juveniles. They're driven on the street. They go the speed limit of
that's
the
right.
So we're,
vehicles.
I gotta
and-
tell you, they ride on the sidewalks, and it's really like
and
I
they practically run you over when you're running.
I'm running
Yeah.
down Wilmot, and there's this kid that I'm constantly like, whoa. So I've been wanting to bring it up too, Mary. So thank you.
Thank you for
It
that.
sounds like the kind of thing that.
Well, and it's something we need to reach out to tell our residents, to let them know that we're looking at it and what the potentials are, and what the possibilities are.
As this comes together, it sounds like, especially when we have some type of a temporary ordinance or pulling it together, our regular newsletter that we send out. It sounds like a good article for that.
So what we're working on with the police department is a chart.
Mhm.
Says this vehicle, the vehicles, right, those different things, age restrictions, what they have to do, who can do them. The police department is working to finish that this week, that we can send that out as a public
Oh, awesome.
communication. But we also recognize that there's limitations in this. The state just amended their code as to what they allow and what they limit. But quite frankly, it doesn't address all the situations.
Of course.
And when I read that nobody can operate an e-scooter without a helmet if they're less than 18, that doesn't reflect the world
Right.
where I'm seeing 12-year-olds going to Starbucks, right? So it's
Oh
so,
yeah, those scooters are scary.
so know that that's coming, but know that there's also going to be more stuff that we're going to have to do.
Yeah.
I think that conversation needs to continue. But what we want to do is convey what the state law is today, because the state did amend the requirements this last year, but we also have to think about our own internal stuff. So Lake Forest, Mary, they did limit it only in their downtown. Essentially what they did is they applied their bicycle on the sidewalk limitations to e-scooters and e-bikes. So you'll hear a lot of stuff that, oh, they did this. They just chill a little bit on what that really is, because they didn't do that all over town. They just did it in the downtown, which I get it.
We're just going to have a tragedy if we don't do something. Yeah.
And nobody's understating the value of looking at this and continue to focus on it.
Well, and we also, Elaine will tell you, we discuss this as part of our greenhouse gas committee discussion in terms of trying to encourage people to use bicycles and encourage people not to use gas vehicles in town. So at the same time, we are trying to encourage the use of bicycles and scooters, but we need to make sure they're safe enough that we're not mowing people down when we do it.
I'm really glad you brought this up. We're going to get that police chart.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a process. It's not going to be a simple chart.
It's going to be a start
Yes.
of information and more information to come, because I agree, we're going to do something about this.
Good.
Right.
That's going to be our first step.
Good.
So, from a biker,
Yeah.
an adult biker,
She's a
it
biker.
is a mode of transportation.
Right.
So I hesitate for you to ban them in the town, in the downtown portion.
Okay.
Because that's where you shop. That's where
right.
you do
That's
stuff.
where I'm riding my e-bike to go to the grocery store, to go to a meeting here.
And that's why that's why it's good to bring it up, but it's one of these things that's kind of complicated, right? So we have to look at the different issues, eventually
I
bring
agree.
that to the board. But the first thing that we're going to do is at least get something out through and from the police that just kind of is more
State regulations.
Yeah.
it's an informational piece in that regard, and then bring something to the board when we can figure the pieces.
Cool.
And would violations of local ordinances be appropriate for the new administrative
Absolutely.
process?
Of course they would. I would think so.
Because
Totally
they're
appropriate.
not reportable to Secretary of State.
Totally.
So it may fall in that
Right.
allowable area.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
interesting.
Oh, right. Hadn't thought of that.
First customers.
Great point. Thanks for bringing that up, Mary. Any other trustee comments? Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Did you have anything?
No, sir.
All right. Great. Thanks, everyone. I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.